All right, so let's kick this thing off. So again, our plan for tonight, we're doing a panel discussion. The way this will basically work is I've got several questions that I've brought that I'll start things off with, and then I've got additional questions that will be my backup questions. But I'm hoping you guys are going to fill in the gaps here with your own questions. You'll let me ask the first few questions, and then I'll kind of give a heads up that I'm looking for some questions from you all. So if you think of anything interesting you want to learn from our speakers, I would ask that you message me. I'm going to field the questions. I'll read them off just so it's all coming from one voice, one location. So just use the chat feature in Slack if you can, or if if you can't use chat for whatever reason, if you're on your phone but you have a burning question you really want to get out, just grab my attention and we'll see what we can do. Or maybe if you've got Slack open or something like that, and on Code Louisville, you can message me there as well. I'll try and keep an eye there. But yeah, we're joined by three great speakers tonight. So in no particular order, you all are going to have a chance to talk about yourself, so I'm not going to read the full bios or anything like that. But we're joined first by Chad Green. He's the Director of Software Development at ScholarRX. And Chad and I have crossed paths in many places with Code Louisville. He's been a speaker at Tech Foundations a year or so ago on software craftsmanship. And he is the organizer of Codepalooza, which is a fantastic conference. If anybody has the chance to attend it, it's going virtual this year. Let's see. One of my first question will be for you to talk about yourselves more, so I'll leave that for then. So next, we have David Richerson. He's the Director of Information Technology at Appriss, and which is a local company that started here as a startup and now has grown to one of the major employers in town, major tech employers. David and I encountered each other because he's more on the IT side of things, and I was starting this new program, Tech Louisville, which is all IT side, and he helped me. We met early on, and he came to a meeting to advise the program, and been great working with him. And then we have Larry Briggs, who is Larry. You're no longer director; you're now vice president, aren't you?
Vice president, yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So I didn't intentionally set out to recruit director and above, but that's what happened for this meeting, which will be great. So Larry is the vice president of application architecture for Waystar, which is pretty formerly known as Zermed, down on Market Street, and do all like medical bill or not.
Revenue cycle management.
There we go. Revenue cycle management. That's what it's called. So those are our panelists tonight, and if you all are welcome to respond to the questions in any order you want. We don't have to do anything formally, but let's just default to that order in general. So we're not all trying to talk over each other and when a question is asked. The first question of the night is tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role, and as well as your organization, just in general.
All right. So,
I apologize. Actually, I'm going to start recording this. I assume nobody objects from the speaker panel to recording. Okay, so give me 1 second. Start recording.
If I say something stupid, though, you've got that's got to be
edit it out.
Yeah. Can I wait until the end of the meeting before I give my consent?
Too late. I already started. Recording started. So to repeat the question for our three speakers today, who unfortunately missed that intro before the recording, but is tell us a little bit more about yourself, your position, and your organization, just so we can know who you are and in context for our conversation tonight.
So like Brian said, I'm Chad Green, Director of Software Development at a company called ScholarRX. We are a very small company based out of actually Elizabethtown, Kentucky. The one difference between the other two is our company is a 100% virtual company. And we build medical platforms for students, mostly focused on the year 1 and year 2 medical students. So lots of really interesting work we do there. I've been doing this for a very long time. Professionally, I've been developing since 1994, but I actually started programming back when I was a little kid in 1979. So I've been doing this a whole long time. I really enjoy it. Along with, just also real quick, I run several user groups. I run Copalooza. So I try to give back to the community as much as I can. And then just, real quick, about our company, so our tech team is 18 people total. Like I said, we're definitely the smaller side of the group here. And we range from everything from web developers to, we have an Android developer, iOS developer. But I've managed many other groups, to include my biggest group I've managed was when I was out at Fort Knox when I had 63 people all over the country. So I've managed all sides of those groups. I guess that's all I've got for now.
Hey, I'm Dave Richerson. I'm the director of IT at Appriss, which is a company here in Louisville, as Brian said. I've been in IT for 25, 26 years now. Started at first level customer call center at actually what was Promise Hotels at the time. It's Hilton Hotels now. And just kind of worked up through the ranks throughout my career. I moved to Louisville 20 years ago, worked at another local company here, a regional bank, actually, Republic Bank. I was there for 17 years and then moved to Appriss 4 years ago. So I don't do any development whatsoever. My whole focus is on IT, servers, infrastructure, network, storage, cloud compute. And I'm not sure why that's popping up, but sorry about that. So I did a little bit of coding when I was in college in Pascal and C++ like 25 years ago. So I don't do any of that stuff. Appriss, what we do, Appriss is a really neat company to work for. We've grown over the past 5 years. We've grown tremendously. We're almost to, I think we're around 800 or 900 employees now. And Appriss actually started 25 years ago. Our primary line of business, or primary thing we do for the public, is victim notification. So victims of crime can go to our website and register to be notified when the offender's status changes. So like they're released from jail or moved to another place, or their court date is set. So we provide that information to the public so that essentially we're using that data that we get from all around the country to help victims feel safer. But we've expanded into the healthcare industry and the retail industry as well. So we're helping the opioid crisis, we're helping hospitals talk to each other, we're helping retailers reduce fraud and mitigate loss. So really, Appriss at its core is a technical analytics company. We have a big pool of data and we use it for good to help the public.
Cool. I'm Larry Briggs. I am the VP of Application Architecture with Waystar, formerly known as Zermed. I have been programming professionally for my entire adult life and amateurly since the third grade. I started with Zermed in 2001 as a contractor. There were maybe 18 people there when I started working there. At last count, we were 950 or so folks in 4-5 cities. So what we do is it's called revenue cycle management. And basically, whenever you go to the doctor, they have to bill, or to the hospital, they have to bill your insurance company. And believe it or not, in America, the system by which a doctor gets paid is the most convoluted and painful system in creation, and many think that is intentional. And so what we do is we have a number of experts on staff, and we absorb that complexity and make it simple for doctors and hospitals to get paid what they're owed, to get paid as accurately as possible and as quickly as possible. And Zermed was actually the first company in America to file a claim over the internet. And we've been, I think at last time I saw the numbers, roughly 1 in 5 patients in America have come through our system at least once over the past 20 years. So growing and doing well. And yeah, we like it. It's good.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for those intros. And then the next one is still kind of an introductory kind of question, I guess, is more to set the tone for what kinds of skills are you looking for in your company. So if you can, tell us a little bit more about like your technology stack, or what you underneath your umbrella are looking for, like what kinds of skills are you looking, whether it's a software development language or certification or whatever. Just tell us a little bit more about your tech stack and what your company does and what you look for.
All right. So in starting off, I'm probably the different one in here that we number one, we are looking all over the place because we have a web app, we have and we have native iOS and Android apps. So we have people focus on that. The actual larger number of developers are API developers because we have a pretty large API that support everything. As far as our stack, so we're our back end is all C#. Well, I shouldn't say all, because we also have Python because we're doing a lot of machine learning. Then obviously our front end is in Angular, and then our native apps are Kotlin for Android, and then Swing for iOS. Along with that, we do data analytics. We're doing Power BI and other such tools. And as far as what we're looking for, our company's a little bit different. I mean, honestly, that's where I'm a little bit out of place here, because where I'm at right now, we do not hire many junior level developers, only because we're a smaller team, right? I actually see that changing in about a year, because we are looking to grow our team. So I think we'll be changing that. But at the moment, we're and not like we're all looking for all senior folks either, but we're generally looking for people who have a couple of years experience. But with that being said, because of my user groups and my conference, I help a lot of folks who are getting new, and I try to at least do a little bit of counseling, trying to help them find those positions, along with talking to recruiters and such who are looking for folks. So because of that, I hear about a lot of positions in the city.
So for us at Appriss, so for me, my team, I'm looking for system engineers that focus on, again, servers, network, especially Appriss has moved to a cloud first mentality for our infrastructure. So, if you're moving into that more of an infrastructure type role versus development, cloud skills are almost a necessity at this point. Being able to use and understand AWS, being able to use and understand Azure. We use both. We use Azure for our retail business and AWS for the rest of the business. It's weird. A lot of stores don't appreciate that we would use AWS or Amazon. Odd. So we use Azure for that side of the business. But that's primarily what I'm looking for: server, network, cloud, data center. We do have an abnormal amount of on-premise data centers that we manage. Appriss as a whole, we do hire a lot of developers. We have all kinds of, we have Perl, Java, Ruby, .NET. There's a handful. It's all over the place. We haven't, our company is broken into a number of business units, and each business unit is broken into little pods of groups, and we haven't standardized what language and development process we go through for all of those. So we have all kinds of languages. But interestingly enough, from an infrastructure perspective, our direction over the next few years is to move to infrastructure as code. And we actually plan on utilizing Python as part of that. So treating our infrastructure, instead of getting into a GUI and clicking around, getting some automation in place where we can deploy infrastructure with scripts. So Python would be the direction we're going with that.
Waystar is predominantly a .NET shop, but we've hit an interesting part of our lifespan, and that is that we are now growing through acquisition as much as we are through organic growth. And what we are finding is that when you buy a company and they've got 15 years of Java code, you're not going to go rewrite it all, right? So we are now upgrading our infrastructure that was based solely on the .NET ecosystem to be one that supports both Java and .NET in that world. We have some NoSQL, we have some Oracle stuff. We have in terms of programming, the primary thing we're looking for is C# developers in test automating. We are, I think, very soon we will start hiring Java folks. We're always looking for DevOps folks. We're always looking for DBAs. DevOps is a big thing for us now because the other fun part that comes with acquiring companies is you usually buy a couple of extra data centers. And so trying to go from 8 data centers to 1 or 2 is a very long and painful process that requires a lot of expertise. And we've been spending a lot of time in that world. In fact, we're going to turn one off next week. We're pretty happy about that. So systems folks, DBAs, C# programmers, Java programmers, and QA. Yeah. Other than that, I think that's every aspect of IT. We're looking for people in some capacity in those worlds. The interesting, exciting thing that we're doing next is migrating to a containerized ecosystem, which we think is pretty cool, but it only involves rebuilding everything that we've done in the past 20 years. So that's going to be fun. And I'm sure that will require more resources to make that happen.
I can only imagine. So. All right, I've got one more question I'm going to ask, and then I'll take a few from the chat. So again, if you've got a question you want to ask the panel, send it to me in a private message on Zoom chat. So my next question is turning to the application process, and how does somebody enter your company? So every company is different. It's a big mystery to many. What happens when I find a job posting on your website and I submit my resume? Again, this process is going to be different from everybody. And also I would make sure everyone knows, we've got more tech side folks here, not HR, so they can only speak to their side of the role. But as much as you all can elaborate on that, tell us what happens when somebody applies for a job and how that may land on your desk or how you may make that decision on the next step.
All right, I'll actually tell it from 3 different perspectives. Primarily because at ScholarRX, actually, since I've been with the company, we've only hired one other person. And that was actually finding someone on LinkedIn. Honestly, a lot of our hires is more through referrals than anything else. Again, we're a smaller company. So I'll talk about more about how the other companies I've worked with, because again, I've only been with this company for a little over a year. But especially when I was at HP, so there you talk about a company that hires a lot of folks, right? And at HP, it was more dependent on the recruiters, and that's why I always tell everyone, don't be scared of the recruiters. Definitely trust the recruiters. Find the recruiters you can trust. And I always tell you, don't ask me in public, but ask me privately, and I will tell you which ones are the good ones to trust, and that will steer you the right way. Because as a especially at HP, where we were hiring so many people, because in the 3 years that I was a director over there, I probably hired a little bit over 100 people, and so it was always in a hiring cycle, and I had to depend heavily on. And we had our internal recruiters, but then we had our external recruiters. We depended heavily on those external recruiters. And it really helps to get that good recommendation from those external recruiters. because I would get so many resumes that, I would depend on that heavily. But generally, I can speak for myself. When I get a set of resumes, I go through them pretty quickly. I do read them, so I don't believe in this whole just read just first couple paragraphs or whatever. I do read the whole thing, but I make very quick decisions because I have to. And then generally, once I pull out a pile, and that pile might be 20 to 50%, depending on how much I like what I saw, then I'll start looking the people up. I'll look them up on LinkedIn. I'll look them up on Twitter, mostly because I'm looking to make sure they're not making a fool of themselves on social media. Because generally what I found is they make a fool of themselves on social media, they're probably going to make a fool of themselves, at work, right? And I've dealt with that, right? So that's why I do that. The one thing I don't do, I'll look at GitHub, but I don't put a whole lot of weight on just because a person made a whole lot of contributions. And partially because that's personally because most of my contributions are to private repos that you don't see. So I realize that not everyone can make a lot of public contributions. So I don't weigh it as much as some others do. Although still, I see that. I like that a lot. And that goes to my general advice of, when you're looking to find jobs, or even when, just in general, is just build things. Because that's the best way to learn. And, here in the interview process, I'll ask you about the things you build. And I'm actually more curious about what you built personally than what you built professionally.
For us, I rarely use another referral company. We post our openings on our website, and we also default to try and promote from within. We always try and give advancement paths to all of the employees of Appriss and to the direction they want to go in their careers. So we found some. We have a knock that was built out a few years ago, and we've gotten some really good candidates out of that. That's moved up into higher areas of either IT or development, based on the path they wanted to go. They use their time in the knock to learn and grow, and as long as you have a strong aptitude and a strong work ethic, there are opportunities that are always opening up. For the process, though, the resume and the application goes to our human resources department, and they filter out ones that just aren't applicable or an option for us. Based on the type of data we have, we have CJIS data, which is criminal justice data. We have some HIPAA data. We have some PCI or PII data. So there are a lot of restrictions around the background checks that people have to pass to be able to work in our systems, to be able to access or manipulate that data. So, and that's at the federal level and state level. Some states are very, very stringent on their requirements, like Texas, that make it limits the number of people that we can bring in. Once it goes through HR, they forward the resumes to me and my managers, depending on what position we're hiring for. We kind of review them and then start to pick some out to go to the next steps, which I assume is a future question, Brian. Or you want me to hit that now?
You can hit it now if you like. I don't know if we'll get to all the questions that I have prepared because we've got quite a few in the chat.
I'll stop there. When we get to it, though, we're very containerized. If that is of interest, I saw a question pop up, so I'll be happy to talk about that as well as Larry does.
So.
Yeah, I'll try to go quickly. We do have an HR department with dedicated recruiters. It's my understanding we rarely leverage technical recruiters these days. There is a screening process where they're looking, they're trying to get the obvious bad candidates out pretty quickly. Once we go through that screening process internally, there's at any given time there's a couple of dozen open seats. So on a fairly regular basis, we talk about what teams have the most need, and we make sure that the top 2 or 3 teams are involved in the interview process. And that's usually a phone screen, and then if we make it through the phone screen, then it's going to be something a little more technical and a little more, we kind of get into the weeds on technical capabilities. But in terms of what we're looking for, usually the first thing is just, are we going to get along? Right? Can we have a conversation? Can you talk about your business? And then secondly is, are you technically strong? Or are you at least show an aptitude for being able to learn and adapt quickly? In the world of programming, we use the phrase enlightened laziness to describe a good programmer, right? A good programmer can do something in 5 lines where a bad one might take them 40. And obviously the good guy is going to go faster.
All right.
Yeah.
So, real quickly, there was a question in the chat about containerization and Docker. So if you...
what is that?
Well, I was going to say you can answer in text or just verbally real quick, but somebody was asking if you talked about your containerization. Are you moving to Docker or something else?
Yes, we're going to use Rancher as our orchestration engine, but yeah, there'll be Docker containers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I got a bunch of questions, so I apologize in advance. We probably won't get to all of them, and I'm going to kind of combine some of these into more complex questions too sometimes. The first one may be a quick one. Are there any good blogs, podcasts, resources, articles, websites, things like that you all recommend people follow to learn and be in touch with what's going on, to be better informed?
So, I'll start. Number one, if you're looking into .NET, I definitely say check out .NET Rocks. That's one of the granddaddies of tech podcasts. Been around for 15 years or so, and they always have really great guests. Another one to check out is the six-figure developer. They do a really good job. The other thing I would say check out, this is still kind of new, but check out Twitch. You got a lot of folks, me included, who are doing live coding and taking questions on Twitch, and so it's a great way to see how someone else writes code. And probably you'll find out is people who've been doing this a long time make as many mistakes as you do.
Feel free to plug your Twitch channel, Chad, if you like.
Yeah. So I'm Taylor and Code on Twitch, and the whole idea, telling tales about software development, learning from each other, and then writing a lot of code.
From the IT perspective, I don't have a podcast or a specific blog that I go to, and that's a good point. I'll add that to my list, and I probably should have that handy. But I would recommend, again, containerization is a great one, but cloud computing and understanding that is key. AWS, if you go to the website, you could spend weeks just watching their videos and going through their free training and get it up to speed relatively well without having to pay for anything. Same for Azure. If you go to VMware's website, they actually have some really great videos and documents on containerization, oddly enough, because they've built, it's called PKS, it's their Kubernetes cluster for VMware, which is orchestration for containerization. And they explain containers at a very easy to understand level. I was able to understand it when I watched it, because the longer I've been in management, the less technical I feel like I seem to be. So it really helped me going and watching those videos. And then I was able to talk with my engineers and not sound that stupid.
It happens to all of us. In terms of blogs, I really like the Stack Overflow blog. I am old enough to remember a time when people programmed and Stack Overflow didn't exist. So it's very interesting to watch how that's blossomed and turned into the de facto source of all programming examples. I really like Scott Guthrie, who's the development lead at Microsoft. So he's usually dropping some pretty interesting information. And then I'm going to go even further back and say books. Clean Code is a great book that I would recommend everyone who ever wants to be a programmer reads. And then in terms of hiring, there's a book that I made all of my managers read called Smart and Get Shit Done by Joel Spolsky. I think Joe Spolsky read it. And it is about how to find the right people to hire. And I give you a hint, there are 2 things you're looking for. And that's what I have.
I got smart. What's the other one?
Get shit done.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's censored on the title, but inside the book. That's the name.
We're recording. Do I need to go back and edit this?
No, it's fine. I'm sure there's a video of me saying worse somewhere.
So, all right. So let's see. Our next question. Getting back to like the resume side of things and things of that nature. What are your all's views on college degree versus non-college degree? You know, do you look at that? Do you, and if, you know, I run non-traditional programs that are generally people without college degrees, but if you within your company are like, nope, we only take college degrees, you know, don't pander to me. Tell us the honest truth. What's the dynamic of having a college degree versus not within your organization or within IT?
So, so ScholarRX does not care whether you have a college degree or not, which is kind of funny because we do work for colleges. But me and my VP, we don't care about the degree. It is interesting because at HP they cared a whole lot about degrees, but I always fought against that. And it's not to say that a college degree is a bad thing, because it's obviously a very good thing. But I have found a lot of success with folks who don't even have a degree. I'm a little bit biased because I don't have a degree, so I'm probably biased because of that. But with that being said, you know, it's not important to me.
Same for me. I'd agree. I don't, from a technical perspective, I don't put a ton of weight in a college degree. I'm more looking for certifications, but even more important than certifications, which, and this comes out in the interview process, I'm looking for aptitude and attitude, customer service, the ability to think on your feet, the ability to learn quickly. You know, we'll give scenario-based questions, and I'm looking to make sure you have an understanding of technology, but more so that you're thinking through things the right way. IT changes so quickly, especially now, that you can't know everything. But as long as you have the right aptitude, that you're technical in nature, and you have the right attitude, that you're calm under chaos, and that you're willing to learn and work hard, in general, you're going to do well. And those are the types of people that we're looking for.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. There's certainly value to formal education of some sort. Just historically, I have found that people who are completely self-taught, at least self-taught and in a vacuum, have a lot of bad habits that they have to unlearn. But I think today I would say I would rather have a 30-year-old with a cert or with a Code Louisville graduation than a 22-year-old straight out of college. Because the 22-year-old doesn't know how to like pay his bills and get to work on time without mom kicking him out of bed. And an adult can actually do those things.
And I promise I did not pay any of them for those answers.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's real. It's a problem with our formal education system that I think goes even in high school. It's about getting your degree and not necessarily about learning how to be an adult. And most of us probably know that now that we've reached this point in our lives. And when you hire someone straight out of school, there's a lot of things they have to learn that have nothing to do with doing the job well. And their employer can bear the brunt of that cost frequently.
All right. I'm going to combine one of my own questions with another question somebody asked in chat, which is when you are reviewing a resume, when one lands on your desk, like what's your strategy with it? Like, what are you looking for? What stands out to you? And what like are you primarily looking skills are you most looking for? So, you know, do you spend 20 seconds with it, 5 minutes? You know, what section do you jump to? Things like that. What really stands out on the resume for you?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I do read the whole resume. But if there's a summary, that's what I focus in more than anything else, because to me, that's what the person wants me to focus on, right? And so I'll look at that. and that really is regardless of what type of position I'm hiring, right? Whether I'm hiring a developer, I'm hiring a business analyst, a tester, what have you. And then I'm looking, I am looking to see, what they have done. And I guess the one thing I do look at that, could be an alert is if they've had a whole lot of jobs where they've been there for like a year or a year and a half. And it doesn't disqualify a person, but it definitely makes me wonder, right? And sure enough, if I forward them on, I will say, if I forward them on to the phone screen part, that's one of the first questions I ask them is what, let me understand why you've moved around a lot.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. I do the same thing. Now, if it's advancing, if there's career progression every year and that moves to new jobs, giddy up. But if it's just bounce around from job to job, then you worry about the stability of the position, and ultimately you're not hiring to fill a position. You're hiring to bring a new employee to be part of your culture and grow with the company. I'm the same way. I look for first, I want it to be professional and neat and easy to follow and read. If there are misspellings or sentence fragments or things that I'm a bit OCD, so those things I move those off to the side pretty quickly. So it is important that it's formatted well, that it's professional looking, that it follows, words are spelled correctly and such. And then I look at the summary and the skill certs and training that are listed, but specifically the summary tells me a bit about who you are and why you're looking and why you're interested in my company. And I would suggest that the summary be tailored for the place that you're applying for and the position that you're applying for and why you feel like you would be a good fit for that. And then finally, I look at job history and I'm looking for not just I worked here and I pressed the red button, but I worked here and these are the things that I did. These are the projects or accomplishments or how I contributed to the company and what value I bring to the company in just a few, which is hard in a few short lines, but that's really what I'm looking for. What do you bring? Why would I choose you, or why should I reach out to you versus these other resumes over here?
Yeah, those are really good points, David. The summary, the free form text of a summary will probably tell me more about an applicant than the bulleted list of skills that I see below that. So that definitely is the first gate they kind of have to pass through, and then I'm going to look at the job history and the extracurriculars. A big red flag for me would be gaps in jobs. At least if someone has a history of technical employment. In Louisville, the unemployment rate for a technologist is practically zero. And so anyone who wants a job probably has one, at least if they're remotely adequate at doing their job. And so if I see big gaps, I mean, that's a red flag, because I go, what happened? Why did this person take 3 or 6 months to get hired on somewhere? That's a big red flag I'm looking for. And then I'm still going to see, like, how does this person spend their time, to be honest? A lot of those questions, some of those questions you can't really ask, right? We can't be asking, are you married? Do you have kids? Those kinds of things. But is this a person who really, really is interested in advancing their career and learning more, in improving and honing their art? And is this what they want to do? They want to become a more and more valuable employee at my organization, or are they just looking to collect a paycheck? And to be honest, sometimes we need folks who are just going to do a 9 to 5 kind of thing, and sometimes I need someone who's going to do more. And so it depends on the job. But I'm not going to put a clock watcher in a position that requires real ownership and someone that I'm going to trust a lot of important things.
It's well said.
All right. Next question is maybe more for Larry and Chad, but feel free to jump in, David, if you've got something. Portfolios, particularly getting GitHub, but doesn't strictly have to be. Do you look for them? If so, what do you look for on them? Are you looking for lots of projects, one really interesting project, or do you not even care about a GitHub portfolio? Is it all about the resume?
So I did talk about. I mean, I don't put as much weight on the GitHub part of it. With that being said, what I put a really big weight, especially when I'm interviewing, is what have you worked on, right? And I don't really care that it's earth shattering or it's going to make a big difference. I'm actually more looking for your excitement, right? How much do you really get into it? How much do you really understand what you got out of it? Um, so to answer the question, I will look at that. I'll make notes so that if I do pull you in for an interview, I'll ask you about those again because I want to see, what did you get out of it, right? Did you learn something out of it? Did you you know was it something you were excited to do, or was it something you did because you wanted to pad your resume and you're just trying to build up a portfolio?
Yeah, and so we would absolutely look at the repos. If they don't have something that I can see, then they're probably going to get a test. If we make it that far down the application process, we would have a test that we'd have them take. But the idea is similar to what Chad is saying, right? I want to hear you talk about your work, and there's a lot. You learn a lot. Not necessarily do I need to see a perfect example of an application being written, but I want to know what were you thinking when you wrote it. What was how did you see the problem, and how did you try to tackle it? Even a poorly written application has value if someone can say, well, this is what I did, and this is why I think it stank. And if I had it to do over, this is what I would do differently. Um, we have a test that I'd say 3 out of 4 people who take the test fail, but we talk about the failures and we talk about what happened, where did you go wrong, what would you do if you had more time, and just talking through that thought process is incredibly valuable. And if I'm looking at someone's code they've already written, then I would say, just tell me, what was cool about it, what did you like about it? And some people they sit back like this and they just go, I don't know, I cut and pasted a lot of stuff. And other people, they lean forward and they go, this was so cool because I learned how to do a binary search and whatever that is. And when you see that, you go, okay, this is a person that wants to get better. This is a person that wants to hone their craft. And this is the kind of person I want to have on my team.
Very cool. Let's see. What are we going to go with next? I guess I'm going to rapid fire a few short questions here that are maybe more individually focused. Oh, David, you did answer the Python question. Good, cool. So Larry, earlier you mentioned Waystar is open to hiring people with 0 years of experience.
Yes.
What is different about you all when it seems like the perception is that other companies don't do that?
Well, we have a number of levels of employment, right? We have junior devs, and we even have an internship program, which I'm sure you guys are talking about, Bit 502. Pre-COVID, right, we committed to having 4 Bit 502 applicants this fall, and I imagine we'll pick that back up next year when things get going again. We've had a long history of dealing with the universities and having an internship program going for years now. The reality is, as Chad is saying, finding someone with 3 years of experience is impossible because those people all have jobs, and it's become easier to grow your own. At least for us, we have more experience growing our own than we do just hiring off the street because the streets are empty. So I would say 30 to 50% of the people we bring on are coming in through our internship program or through some kind of early entry program where we put them in junior spots and grow them and teach them in-house.
Cool. And that question in chat was phrased to Larry specifically, but if the others have any comments on it, and Appriss, I know you've hired some code level people too, so you take people from zero tech experience as well. I don't know if you have any additions to add. If not, it's okay.
Another interesting aspect that we've had is we've had some folks outside of technology that want to move into tech, and several of them have gone to code level and graduated and then come back and transitioned within the organization, and that's been very successful.
So that actually kind of feeds into another question somebody asked that, again, maybe more Waystar focused. The specific question was, if I have experience in revenue cycle management, non-technical experience in revenue cycle management, how do I stand out? But I will genericize the question to,
Yeah.
how do I emphasize insert personal experience to apply to a tech position trying to get it?
I would just align that with things you said earlier and say, absolutely, I would call that out in the summary. As David was saying, customizing your summary, tailoring that for the position. I think that'd be incredibly valuable because it's such a complex world, right? When we bring someone on, they have to learn two huge worlds. They have to learn the enterprise architecture world of Waystar, and they also have to learn about the depressingly complex world of healthcare. And so if they already have one of those things knocked out, that I would say that gives them a pretty big leg up on their competition.
I'll add to that. I mean, I've always said your current skills is like a distant third thing I'm looking for, right? My two primary things, one is that you'll actually be able to work with my team, but the most important thing is that the ability to learn, all right, and the willing to learn. Hence, and going back to the question of hiring, zero experience folks, I applaud companies like Zermed or Waystar. See, I've known Zermed for too long. To include, I've worked for a company we were customers of Zermed, but Waystar and Appriss who will hire, or El Toro, right? Who's very well known for hiring folks right out of Louisville and such. Because that's the problem we have in our industry, right? Is we have these entry level positions and we want 3 years experience. I'm like, that's the silliest thing ever, right? That's not an entry level position.
Yeah. Another, I think, a big leg up that non-traditional students have is most young programmers feel like it is their job to write code and to write as much code as possible. And I would say, and the thing I always try to tell the new folks when they show up is your job is to solve problems for the organization. You're a problem solver and your primary tool is software. If there's a way to do it without writing code, it's probably better and we should talk about it. And so I think folks who understand your job is to solve problems, not to write code, I think those people will become more productive and more valuable to their employers.
That's good. Just add to that, and you guys touch on some of the things I really value, and I said it earlier, is willingness and desire to learn and grow, but customer service. In IT, you have to talk to users, and that can be difficult or frustrating sometimes, but that's part of the job. Traditionally, the perspective on IT engineers is they hide in the dark server room away from people, and you try not to let them talk to the public because that's usually best. You put a manager out there to talk to, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who is a people person, who likes to solve problems, who likes to work with people to get to fix things. And you almost stated our mission statement perfectly, Larry. We in IT, our mission statement is, we exist to enable the business to serve our customers. And we do that through technology and data information and data sharing. And sometimes my guys get frustrated because we get dragged into all kinds. If you're in IT, every problem is a network problem. You'll find that out soon enough. If you go into IT, the developers always say it's a network problem. If something's not working, it's a network problem. And about 90% of the time it's not. But we get brought into those problems and my guys get frustrated, but I'm trying to change our mindset, because it doesn't matter if it's a network problem. If we can help solve the problem faster and easier, then we should be helping to do that, because that's our job. Our job isn't to fix the network problem. Our job is to enable the business to serve our customers. And if we have to step a little bit outside of our silos and our walls to do that, that's what I want. So I want someone who has that attitude to serve.
All right. Still got a few minutes, so we'll get another 2 or 3 questions in. The next one is a two-parter. First, does your company use any sort of like applicant tracking system, any automated system that scans through resumes and stuff like that? And then the second part is, do you use tests, take-home projects, quizzes, things of that nature, whiteboarding to to screen or test your applicants.
So thank goodness we do not have an applicant tracking system. I hate those things. Because I have worked at companies where we did, and they were useless. But then the second part of the question. So everywhere I've been, we have not done tests for one reason or another. I mean, so when we were at HP, it was a little bit hard to do it because of government work, and so we weren't. I wasn't able to even show people what we were working on until we hired them. But the other reason why I don't is just because for me, I have a basically a good gut feeling that has worked really well for me. That's not to say everyone I've hired has been a perfect hire, because I've had a couple that just didn't work. But as a general rule, just talking to you and talking about your projects, and I'll dig into the code, because again, I'm not so much worried about the syntax you wrote. I'm worried about how did you solve a problem. And so that has worked well for me. Now, that's not to, because I know Larry does test, and I'm not saying tests are bad, because I'm not saying that at all. But for me, it's worked well to not do tests.
A lot of people are anti-test these days.
And I'm not saying I'm anti-test. It's just what's worked for me. I don't use them.
Yeah, we don't have a screening process either, and we haven't done testing. Although HR is rolling out a proof of concept for a testing platform. I don't know any of the details on that, but that hasn't started yet. But depending on the level of engineer we're hiring, we always do team interviews for the last interview. And the other engineers really put them through the ringer to make sure they know their stuff at the appropriate level. If we're hiring a level 4 engineer, we expect them to know the inner workings of the things that they say they know. But to level 1, we're looking more for how do you think through problems, and do you have the desire to learn more? So they ask appropriate questions.
We do use an applicant tracking system, and it comes in handy in a number of scenarios. For example, if I'm hiring for an architect and I think this is the wrong candidate, but I really like them, I can say, hey, there are some other teams looking for people. You guys should check this person out. Here's my data from our interview process. Or if we liked a person and we went through the process, but maybe they ended up getting another offer and it doesn't work out, but they come back around a year or so later, we can say, oh, here's all this data we already have on them. We know we love them. Let's move quickly before they get another job again. And those kinds of things have panned out several times over the past few years. We have a number of tests that folks go through before I even see a candidate. I think they have to pass a Wonderlic even, which I was not a fan of in the beginning. But we've ignored the Wonderlic a number of times and hired folks that we really liked, and none of them work here anymore. So I actually think it maybe is a valuable gate. The challenge is in a market where everyone is in such high demand, a number of applicants simply won't jump through the hoops. If they can just turn around and get another job, they're like, why would I even bother with the effort? So there are definitely some downsides to being rigorous in the testing, but the cost of hiring the wrong people is pretty high. So I understand why the organization has decided to be careful. And yeah, in terms of whiteboarding or testing or code reviewing, it varies greatly based on the position being considered, and even maybe the manager in charge. All of those different exercises all kind of have the same goal in mind, though, and that's understanding how the applicant's mind works and how he or she would tackle certain problems when presented.
All right. Let's see. How are we on time? Yeah, we still got. So the next question is.
The calendar says we're going to 7:30. Yeah.
I usually tack on a few minutes. I was targeting about 7:15 is what I was going for. So and then leaves time for any last straggling questions or anything like that.
I smell dinner cooking.
Yep. So Yeah, my wife's cooking dinner right now, actually. So, but I promise that's not the reason I'm rushing. So, next question is around accessibility. So it's kind of a two-parter here. How much is accessibility experience? How much does accessibility experience play a role in your hiring decisions currently? And then, how do you ensure your hiring process is inclusive? And what degree do you have control over that?
Well, that's a tough
I
one.
guess those are actually, I kind of misread one of the questions. I realized those are pretty different questions. So let's take them one at a time. So let's start with the accessibility question. How much is accessibility, does it play a role? I mean, honest answer, do you look for that, and what considerations do you take in it?
Well, obviously if I'm hiring a front end developer, most definitely, right? Because accessibility is so important. I gotta admit, I don't think I've ever asked, when I'm looking for an API developer or that type of thing, I've ever asked any accessibility questions. But definitely, like I said, definitely if I'm hiring a front end developer, it's extremely important.
Can you rephrase the question? State it again. Define what you mean by accessibility.
This may be more of a software dev type thing. And
Perfect.
The person who asked the question, if you wish to expand on the question, feel free to either unmute yourself or message me. But does accessibility?
Accessibility generally, when people are talking about that, they're referring to websites or UIs that are usable by folks with various impairments. We don't test for that. I don't think it comes up much in conversation. And I imagine if Waystar's application were to get tested for accessibility, we'd get a C-. Our application is a working application, meaning every client that uses our web app is at work when they're using it. And that work is going to be a doctor's office or a hospital office. So the conditions under which folks are using the application are relatively controlled. I don't know if doctors' offices hire blind people or not. I don't know, but it's never something that's never come up. We've never had clients say, "Hey, this is an area where you're failing," and so we've not really pushed that.
Fair enough. So then the second question, which was, how do you ensure your hiring processes are inclusive, and what degree do you have control over that?
So, all right, where I'm at right now, I have complete control because, like I said, we hire we don't hire a whole lot of people and such. And so I definitely try to make sure that we look at candidates at all different areas. Because I mean, if you ever listen to me talk, I've talked about how I actually have more fun with a diverse team than I do with a team of just a bunch of white guys, right? It's a and more importantly, we produce better things. Now I will say, where I've been at before, I had no control over that because it was whatever resumes were getting to me for the most part.
For us, HR, our human resources department, is a big help with that. They help with the wording, specifically of our job postings, making sure that we have a diverse number of candidates that we're looking at.
This is an interesting question. This is an area where I think Waystar has fallen behind. And in the past few weeks, 3 weeks ago, we actually formed an inclusivity and diversity council, upon which I am a member, and we will be taking a number of steps to make sure that Waystar improves in all of these areas. So I would say today there is nothing explicit in Waystar's practices that guarantee inclusivity or diversity, but that is something we're looking to fix, and I will be having a direct influence on how that happens. And this is an area of specific interest to me. I challenged our CEO on this directly a month ago. I've been working for our company for 20 years, and it took 19 years before they had a person of color in an executive position. And So we're looking to get better in that regard.
All right. Let's see. Salary. How do you broach any recommendations you have on how you breach the salary question, or what is your process for negotiation, bringing it up, understanding it, things of that nature?
First off, ask for more than what you actually want. And I say that because most people undervaluate themselves, and I'm including that, right? I'm horrible about asking that. And we were just talking about diversity and such. It even goes especially, more than anything else, for the women in the crowd, right? Women have a tendency to ask for less than they really should, and most companies are going to allow that to happen because, again, they're looking to keep the bottom dollar, but the bottom line good. But generally, I also can, I can hire a person a little bit higher than what they think I can hire them at.
Yeah, I think asking for a little more than you expect or want is a good plan. As part of when you apply on our website at Appriss, it asks what your salary requirements are. It's optional, so you can leave it blank, and then it's something we could discuss if we move further down. But yeah, definitely asking for what you feel you're worth, and then being willing to negotiate if that's out of the range. But typically, there is a range for the role that we're hiring for. So, and if we feel like it's too high, but we really like you, we might come back and say, okay, well, we want to bring you on, but this is the number we can bring you on at, and work on moving you up over time here and provide career progression. Or if that's too low, then we continue to negotiate or we continue to look.
Yeah, and David, I think we're in a similar boat there. All of our positions have pay bands that go with them, and we collect data. We use a consulting firm, PayScale, I think, to pull market data to make sure that we are within the acceptable parameters for what the market's going to pay out. But in general, I would say for some reason in America, people don't like to talk about money, what they earn or what they're worth. I think it's important for every employee to recognize that it is a net win for an employer to bring you on. You're going to generate more money for the company than they're going to pay you, because if it didn't, they wouldn't hire you, right? They wouldn't have you there at all. You are providing a service that has value, and there is nothing wrong with insisting that you get a fair market price for the service that you provide. And don't be afraid to talk about what you're worth, and don't be afraid to ask for more. Because we know what you're worth, and if you don't ask for it, you're probably not going to get it.
Well, and definitely do some research on your skill level and what that pay rate is in general in the industry in different regions. If you're starting out as a junior level developer, you probably don't want to go in and ask for 200,000. That might price you out of an opportunity. So it'd be reasonable, but again, get what you're worth and ask for that.
I think Stack Overflow has a pretty good database on what different IT positions pay based on location and on experience.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think Glassworks as well, and salary.com, I think, does.
Yeah.
All right. One last question, and then we'll start to wrap up, which is a few people ask in various forms just about internships. So how does yours work if you have one? What to expect from it, or where to find one if you don't have one yourself. Basically, just people looking for that first trial into the industry.
So yeah, we do not have an internship. Actually, I've never been in a company that has one for different reasons. Right? Again, we're small. We're right now. Like when I was at HP, the security clearance took so long that internship didn't make any sense. With that being said, I mean, I know plenty of companies who do. So, I mean, if that's what you're interested in, reach out to me and I will connect you with those that do.
At Appriss, different areas of the business do have internships. We have done some. We plan on expanding that this year, but then the world caught on fire around us and we basically stopped all hiring. So that's been temporarily put on hold. But I do anticipate in 2021, we'll be looking to do internships in different areas of the business.
Yeah, COVID has put our internship program on hold for 2020, but it will be back next year. I know we're definitely going to have some BIT 502 candidates. I don't know if we're going to continue to do things outside of that. The manager that runs that program does work for me. So we will be bringing that back in 2021. I don't know exactly. Brian, I'll make sure you know when it wakes back up.
I actually just exchanged an email with Chris about it.
Oh, sweet.
Just this morning, actually. So just for anybody who isn't familiar, BIT 502 is a fairly new program. We only had our pilot class last year, and we had to put the second class on hold this year because I think our hiring event was literally scheduled for the week of lockdown, I believe, or the week after, something like that.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that just threw a lot of things into disarray. So we'll be resuming it in January is the tentative plan right now. But and I'll post more information about this in Code Louisville and Tech Louisville Slack when it rolls around. But it's a 2-year program, internship, and it's a work and learn program. So you do 2 years for both JCTC, the community college, and one of the participating employers. And by the end of it, you get a 2-year degree in computer information technology, or CIT with JCTC, and 2 years of experience with an employer. And if you made it through 2 years of that program and your employer didn't hire you on full time, well, something definitely went wrong there because you did 2 years with them. So hopefully you know their stack and everything that's going on. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. 502.com, the website's outdated, so apologies in advance. But so that brings us to the end of the night. I want to thank our speakers, Chad, Larry, and David, for joining us tonight. A lot of good information shared. I'll get the recording posted on the Tech Foundation's YouTube page tomorrow sometime. And if you all have any final questions or anything like that in text form, we'll hang around for another couple minutes to see what's going on. But so again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. And I don't currently have the next Tech Foundations planned. I'm probably going to have to skip August just because I had a massive project dropped on me a couple weeks ago that has just absolutely destroyed any free time I had. So probably not August, but I'll look to get one together for September. And again, if you have ideas for that, or if you're interested in seeing a speaker, just message me on Meetup or Slack or wherever.
Yeah, and, that's the Louisville Tech Slack, right?
I'm on a great many Slacks, so I'm generally referring to the Code Louisville one, but yes, I'm on Louisville Tech. As I'm pretty sure I'm at Brian Luerman. Just I'm out there. Find me, message me, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and have a good rest of the evening.
Glad to help.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.